Kimberly is quickly having to learn just how different things are in India, and she's beginning to see a totally different side to TJ. After just one day, she's already feeling totally alone. These two have to find a better way to communicate. Kimberly's definitely hot-headed, but I think TJ's been adding fuel to the fire. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's rewind back to the start of this episode. We left Kimberly and TJ on Kimberly's first day in India. She'd just seen her new apartment, her new home, and to say she wasn't happy would be a bit of an understatement. In fact, it caused her to have a meltdown. So when we join them in the aftermath in this episode, TJ is running downstairs to his family to vent his frustration. Now here's the thing, regardless of how angry he is, TJ can't go running off to his family to complain about his partner every time they have a fight. It's not healthy. It's gonna unfairly skew his family's perception of her. But something tells me this isn't a new dynamic. This was something that Kimberly was worried about even before she left America. And it turns out she was right. Well, yeah, it looks like they will, Kimberly. You see, even before TJ finishes telling his family what's happened, they've already heard enough to form a pretty harsh opinion. And surprise, surprise, they're siding with TJ. Remember, TJ and Kimberly's apartment is upstairs. The plan is to all live together like one big happy family. So while TJ might have found a few sympathetic shoulders to cry on, all this therapy session is really doing is driving a wedge between his family and Kimberly. Of course they're going to take his side. Of course they're going to reaffirm his belief that it's him doing all the work. They're his family. They're going to say that he's right. But the problem is, he hasn't exactly shared the entire story with them. Take, for example, all the concerns that Kimberly raised before she arrived. Kimberly knew that the state of the apartment could trigger her. She told TJ up front how important it was. But I guess TJ's family only saw one side of this. They only saw TJ's hard work going into the apartment. So they've only got half the story. The problem is, by running to his family, by being this dramatic, it's only going to foster resentment towards Kimberly. TJ sounds like a heartbroken teenager. Just look at his face. Sure, Kimberly didn't like the apartment. Maybe she even hated it. But TJ saying this broke his heart, that he loved Kimberly, past tense, as in he used to love her but doesn't anymore, is just as big an overreaction as Kimberly's was. It's only been 5 minutes since the argument, yet here's TJ acting like he's been in a toxic marriage for 20 years and can't wait to divorce. Look, in a way, it's really nice to see just how close TJ and his family are, how much they trust each other, how openly they talk with one another. But you just can't tell your family every single problem you have with your partner. Otherwise, there's no privacy left. There has to be a limit. That's what TJ doesn't seem to get. I'm all for family support, but this is only going to make Kimberly feel even more isolated. None of TJ's family seem to acknowledge that Kimberly is also giving up a lot to be in this relationship. From their perspective, she's arriving in India with her wedding planned for her in a brand new apartment. No worries. She should be grateful. And I get their perspective. I understand their position to an extent. Compared to their home, what TJ's in the process of building, and it's not finished yet, but what he's in the process of building does seem to be an upgrade to their house. They're proud of TJ, but they need to realize that Kimberly is also giving up a lot. It's not easy to pack up everything and leave behind your friends and family, to start afresh in a new country with a different culture, having to live practically with your partner's family. This apartment was supposed to be her sanctuary. It was supposed to be where she could go for comfort, to be at home. That's why boundaries are so important. But unfortunately, it's starting to feel like TJ's family has no boundaries. This is strange on a number of levels. Look, TJ sleeping in the same bed as his mum every night probably requires a deep psychological analysis of its own, so I'm not even going to touch that. But now he wants Kimberly to join them. I don't know about you, but there's not enough money in the world that you could pay me to spend an awkward night in bed with my mum and my wife together after we've just had an argument. No way. TJ just really has no idea how to separate private life from family life. That, you can already tell, is going to be a big problem because Kimberly wants to have her own space. Kimberly's talking about her spirit guides here. Now, whether or not you believe in them, she's clearly looking and grabbing at something, anything for support. She's previously told us that spirit guides have been with her since she was a child, and knowing that her parents went through a very messy divorce, knowing that she told us she always felt her mum treated her differently from the rest of her siblings, these spirit guides were probably her way of finding comfort in tough situations. The kind of tough situations she's experiencing now. What's most important to her, and what she keeps telling TJ, is she wants to feel heard. She needs to know her partner's listening to her concerns. Right now, she feels like he isn't. He feels like his effort on the apartment isn't being appreciated, but he doesn't seem to understand Kimberly's perspective. He doesn't understand why she's getting upset. Does TJ genuinely not see that the apartment was different from what Kimberly imagined? Or is he choosing to focus on her emotion rather than the things she pointed out? Wherever the truth lies, the time has come for TJ to venture upstairs and try and rebuild bridges. Only it's not gonna go as he hopes. Are you serious, TJ? You can't just approach her like a puppy dog and expect everything to be okay. This fight was way too explosive to just try and casually sweep it under the rug. Look, Kimberly might be hot-headed. She might not be as positive as she makes out. But she's actually being the more mature one here. When she finally gets to talk, TJ's quick to point out exactly how she offended him. That word appears to have really offended TJ. It's clearly more offensive in India than it is in the States. I can totally understand why Kimberly didn't think of it as such a big deal, but this difference points to a much bigger issue. For TJ and in his culture, there are very clear gender roles. There are things that women can or can't do, can or can't say. The duties and expectations of women are different to men, and that, for Kimberly, is always going to be a problem. Kimberly wants a partner, but TJ wants a wife, and a wife in the Indian sense of the word. The truth is, if he also thought of a couple as a partnership, then I don't think he'd have as much trouble acknowledging Kimberly's concerns. Yet again, Kimberly is getting heated, but again, TJ is reluctant to see her perspective. He can't seem to see the middle ground. In the same way that he told her not to worry about the apartment until it was too late, he now wants to forget about the fighting without talking. He was hoping that they could paper over these cracks and just move on, but that was never going to happen. Unfortunately, Kimberly, he can't. And so, yet again, the episode ends with TJ storming off downstairs, no doubt to go running to his family again. And the really worrying thing is, he hasn't even dropped the bombshell yet that Kimberly is expected to do all the household duties. You can just imagine how Kimberly's going to react when she finds that out.